There's something you were never meant to understand. A force so ancient, so dangerously enticing, it's been buried beneath decades of psychological white lies and politically correct rewrites. It lives in every woman, but cannot be spoken aloud. And yet, it controls everything. Within the next few minutes, you're going to discover a truth that's been scrubbed from textbooks, denied by institutions, and silenced by those too afraid to confront the shadows. This isn't a theory. This is a code. A blueprint etched deep into the female unconscious, hidden beneath smiles, scripted morals, and polite refusals. Freud caught a glimpse of it in his early career, then recoiled. He called it a riddle without an answer. But others, they went further, quietly, obsessively. And what they found? It wasn't just unsettling. It was explosive. Let me take you back to Vienna, 1902. A patient named Clara walks into Dr. Burns' office. She's 22, a poet, brilliant, beautiful, and broken. She's been having dreams she cannot explain, recurring images of being tied, taken, dominated. Her fiancé is kind, generous, mild-mannered, and she despises him. She cries at night because she wants to want him, but can't. Byrne notes her language, guilt, disgust, confusion. But then, something odd. Her pulse rises as she speaks. Her hands shake. Her breath quickens, not from fear, but from something else. He records it in his journal. There is something forbidden in her desire, not born of trauma, but in defiance of reason. Clara is not alone. Case after case, young women confessed similar contradictions. They claimed to want kindness, but dreamed of danger. They spoke of love, but ached for power to overcome them. Byrne called it the compulsion of contrast, the pull toward polarity, where the feminine craves not equality, but opposition. These insights never made it to publication. Why? Because they didn't fit. They didn't match the utopian ideal that love was pure, safe, and symmetrical. But here's the truth. Desire has no conscience. It is primitive, nonverbal, amoral, and absolutely strategic. A woman's body does not care about your politeness. It doesn't reward virtue. It responds to what it cannot predict. It responds to tension. This is why the nice guy fades, while the unpredictable stranger lingers in her mind for weeks. And if you think this is just anecdotal, stay tuned. We're only beginning to decode what Freud glimpsed and dared not reveal, that beneath the feminist surface, there is an ancient animal mind, and it hungers for something no romance novel will ever admit aloud. Let's get one thing straight. What a woman says she wants is almost never what her nervous system responds to. Sound harsh? Maybe, but it's not cynical. It's clinical. In the 1950s, a study quietly conducted at Rutgers University hooked female volunteers to monitors measuring heart rate, pupil dilation, and skin conductivity, classic arousal metrics. Each woman was shown a series of stories. 1. A tender love scene between two emotionally available equals. 2. A tale of calculated seduction. 3. A vivid fantasy of forced surrender, written like a Gothic novel. Guess which one triggered the strongest response? Not the sweet one, not the balanced one. It was the story filled with danger, resistance, and eventual domination. Yet, when these same women were asked which story they preferred, nearly all chose the safe, romantic one. The disconnect was shocking, and this wasn't an outlier. It's been replicated dozens of times. In fact, UCLA's 2019 fMRI study made it clearer than ever. Female arousal patterns are largely unconscious. They respond not to social ideals, but to evolutionary cues. Let me explain. For millions of years, a woman's survival, and her children's, depended on one thing: finding a man who could protect her, not just physically, but psychologically, a man whose presence would override her chaos. This didn't mean kindness. It meant control. The deep female psyche is calibrated to look for strength and test for it constantly, because that strength once determined whether her genes thrived or died. So what does this mean in the real world? It means when she starts an argument, it's not always conflict. It's filtering. It means when she complains that you don't talk enough, but melts when you speak with authority. It's not manipulation. It's instinct. It means when she ghosted the nice guy who brought flowers and obsessed over the man who left her on red. She wasn't being cruel. She was being honest to her biology, even if she couldn't admit it. You see, society has taught women to say one thing, but nature programmed them to feel another. And Freud, he saw this coming. He called it the splitting of the erotic mind, the divergence between conscious morality and unconscious craving. A woman might believe in equality, fairness, and mutual affection, but deep down, she's drawn to power, to contrast, to mystery. She doesn't want a clone. She wants a force that pulls her out of herself. You've probably seen it yourself. The Ivy League graduate obsessed with a tattooed guitarist. The corporate executive in love with the emotionally unavailable entrepreneur. The married woman who risks everything for a man who doesn't even try. This isn't self-sabotage. It's evolutionary programming colliding with social conditioning. And men who ignore this truth, they suffer, silently, wondering why doing everything right still gets them left on scene. But those who accept it, they play a different game, one built not on appeasement, but polarity. Ready to go deeper? Picture this. He's a good man. He listens. He supports her goals. He never raises his voice, never forgets a birthday, never makes her feel unsafe. He's been told this is what women want, and he believed it. Until she left. Not for someone kinder, not for someone more devoted, but for someone who barely tried. Meet Daniel, 34 years old, software engineer, owns a condo, reads about emotional intelligence, cooks vegan meals, sends thoughtful texts. He met Laura at a leadership workshop. They clicked instantly. She called him refreshing, said he was different. 2 years later, she left him. No cheating, no scandal, just emptiness. Her parting words? "You're amazing, but I don't feel that spark." Daniel spiraled. Therapy, self-help books, Reddit forums. He kept asking, what did I do wrong? The answer? Nothing, by society's standards. But by evolution's blueprint? He failed the test he never knew he was taking. Let's break this down. In evolutionary terms, women select. Not consciously, but biologically. They assess strength, resilience, confidence, and most of all, emotional gravity. When a man gives too much too soon, over-validates, and prioritizes her above his purpose, he triggers her flight response, not her attraction reflex. Freud's once suppressed theory of moral castration describes this perfectly. It's what happens when a man amputates his primal instincts to be safe. But safety without edge? That's invisibility. Modern dating apps make this brutally clear. In 2018, a University of Oslo study revealed that women rated 85% of men as below average in desirability. Yes, you heard that right. Not average. Below average. It's not just harsh, it's biological efficiency. And here's the darker truth. Women would rather share the top 10% of men than settle for the bottom 90%. You've seen it. The man with options gets more options. The man with none becomes background noise. It's not fair. It's not romantic. It's evolution. And this is what modern culture refuses to say out loud. kindness alone does not ignite desire. Because desire isn't democratic. It's not polite. It's not fair. It's primal, volatile, and brutal in its selectivity. Daniel never understood that his consistent availability, his emotional overexposure, and his unwavering validation didn't make him a better partner. They made him predictable. And predictability is the death of mystery, the fuel that drives arousal. Freud saw this before Tinder ever existed. He warned, civilization may neuter its men and wonder why its women grow restless. Today, men like Daniel are everywhere, swiping, texting, hoping, and slowly withering in confusion. But what if you could escape this trap? What if the key to rekindling her fire wasn't to become colder, but to become polarized? What if the very instincts you've been told to suppress are the ones she's silently begging you to awaken? Let's make something crystal clear. Equality is not the same as attraction. In politics? Sure. In business? Absolutely. In love? Not even close. We've been sold a fantasy that the ideal relationship is a perfectly balanced partnership of shared emotions, gentle compromise, and unshakable support. Sounds great, except it doesn't turn anyone on. Freud hinted at this over a century ago when he wrote, "Desire is not born from sameness, but from tension between opposites." He called it polarity, and it's the core of attraction. Masculine energy and feminine energy aren't just gender roles, they're psychological forces, opposing magnets. Desire thrives in that gap. Kill the gap, and you kill the charge. This is why the equal partner model often leads to low desire, low intimacy, and slow emotional decay. You've seen it. Couples who start off hot, then settle into a friendship with benefits, that eventually loses the benefits. The reason? Too much closeness. Not enough contrast. Let's break it down further. Masculine energy, directional, grounded. Penetrative, not just sexually, but energetically. Think, clarity, certainty, presence. Feminine energy, expressive, fluid, receptive. Think, emotion, surrender, change. When these forces collide with mutual polarity, you get heat, intensity, the kind of passion that doesn't fade in a week or a month. But when both partners lean too far into sameness, say, both are soft, accommodating, and always negotiating, the energy goes flat. And here's where most men get it wrong. They abdicate polarity for peace. They say, "I'll let her decide." They over-explain, over-validate, over-talk. They mirror her softness with even more softness, not realizing she's waiting for them to step into presence. A 2022 study from the Journal of Social Psychology found something fascinating. Women consistently rated men who made decisive plans without consulting them as more sexually attractive. Why? Because decision is dominance. And dominance, when combined with emotional regulation, is erotic. Now hear this loud and clear. This is not about control. It's about leadership. She doesn't want a dictator. She wants a man who can hold her emotional storm without flinching. A man who doesn't ask, "What should we do?" He says, "Here's what I'm thinking. Let's do it unless you feel strongly otherwise." That sentence alone can reignite dead relationships. Why? Because it anchors polarity. Remember, she can lead. She can dominate. But when she doesn't have to, when she gets to relax into her own feminine flow, that's when she feels safe to desire again. The paradox? The more you chase emotional sameness, the faster she loses sexual charge. The more you step into your masculine center, the more her desire wakes up. Polarity is not a trick, it's a law. And men who understand this, they don't need pickup lines, fancy cars, or a six-pack. They simply need presence, clarity, and the willingness to lead. Let's begin with a paradox. The more you explain yourself to her, the less she feels you. That's not poetic. It's neurological. Modern neuroscience has confirmed what Freud only suspected over a century ago. The female brain responds not to logic, but to emotional contrast. And nothing activates that contrast like one thing: silence. Not coldness, not ghosting, but the intentional withholding of unnecessary validation. Freud called it the defiant switch, the instinct that turns resistance into obsession. He noticed this in his female patients. When he stopped indulging their constant need for reassurance, their emotional engagement intensified. Why? Because the unexplained is where the feminine mind begins to spin stories. And stories are where desire lives. Think about it. You text her a long, thoughtful message. She replies with KU double text. She pulls away. Your overcommunication didn't create intimacy. It killed tension. But what if you didn't reply? What if you allowed space? What if you let her feel the weight of your absence? Suddenly, she's wondering what you're thinking. Suddenly, she's checking your socials. Suddenly, you become a mystery again. And mystery is the oxygen of feminine desire. Let me tell you a story. In 1936, Freud's radical protege, Sandor Ferenczi, conducted an unauthorized voice experiment with female patients. He recorded two male voices, one eager, soft, validating. The other was calm, firm, slow, and commanding. When played to the patients under clinical observation, 87% showed measurable arousal, but only for the second voice. Even those who claimed to dislike it couldn't deny their bodies responded. The conclusion? The unconscious feminine does not want to be asked. It wants to be claimed. And here's the twist. When asked why they reacted that way, most women lied, not maliciously, but unconsciously. They rationalized. They said the soft voice made them feel safe. But their bodies told a different story. This is not manipulation. This is biology. Your job is not to suppress who you are to make her comfortable. Your job is to become so centered, so rooted, that she feels your gravity without needing words. This is the essence of what Freud hinted at in his later letters. True masculinity is not force. It is presence. It does not plead, it invites. So here are 3 weapons from Freud's forbidden toolbox. 1. The strategic silence. When emotions rise, don't over-explain. Don't justify. Let her sit in the stillness. That silence becomes her mirror and her magnet. 2. The decisive imperative. When making plans, lead. Give her something to relax into. She doesn't want to control everything. She wants to feel like she can trust your direction. 3. The attention loop reward only what aligns with your values. When she behaves in ways that deepen the connection, give presence. When she violates that standard, withdraw quietly, not out of punishment, but out of self-respect. Because here's the final truth. She doesn't fall for the man who proves himself. She falls for the man who doesn't need to. When you live by your own internal compass, you stop being the pursuer and become the gravity she orbits. The man who says less, but is felt more. The man who doesn't ask to be chosen because he knows he is the chooser. Thanks for watching.